When most people think of Armenia, they imagine a small mountain nation with ancient churches, its own unique alphabet, and one of the oldest Christian traditions in the world. But what lies beneath all of this is something even older: the DNA of the Armenian people, a genetic time capsule that preserves thousands of years of history, from Bronze Age kingdoms to mighty empires, from nomadic horsemen to Greek and Persian conquerors. Countless groups have left their mark on the Armenian Highlands, and yet modern science shows that Armenians remain one of the most stable and continuous populations in the world. Today, we'll uncover what Armenian DNA really says about their ancient ancestors, the invaders who passed through, and the physical appearance that still reflects this unique past. The Armenian Highlands, stretching between Anatolia, the Caucasus, and Mesopotamia, have been inhabited for tens of thousands of years, but the peoples who shaped Armenian ancestry appear in the Bronze and Iron Ages. The Hattians, Hurrians, and Scythians were among the earliest. They lived across eastern Anatolia and northern Mesopotamia, leaving behind myths, pottery, and burial practices that echo into Armenian traditions. Then came the Hyasazi Confederation, recorded in Hittite texts, often linked to the legendary Hake, the mythical forefather of Armenians. Around the same time, the Armenians entered the highlands, possibly giving Armenia its very name. Nearby cultures such as the Chalkians, Luwians, and the powerful Mitanni kingdom influenced trade and warfare, weaving the region into the larger fabric of the ancient Near East. Each of these groups left cultural and genetic threads that still exist in Armenians today. The story comes into sharper focus with the kingdom of Urartu, 9th to 6th century BCE, centered around Lake Van. Urartu built massive fortresses, mastered irrigation, and left behind cuneiform inscriptions. Genetic studies of ancient remains show that Urartians were nearly identical to modern Armenians. This means that the people who built Urartu are, in many ways, the direct ancestors of Armenians today. At the same time, related groups like the Phrygians, Mushkis, and Pala moved into the region, adding new influences without erasing the local population. Armenia's geography, at the crossroads of empires, meant that invaders never stopped coming. The Assyrians fought bitter wars with Urartu. The Medes and later the Persians folded Armenian lands into their empires, leaving traces of Iranian language and culture. From the north, nomadic Scythians and Cimmerians swept through on horseback. The Cimmerians, known in Armenian tradition as the Gamrik or Gameri, raided the highlands, while Scythians sometimes served as allies or mercenaries. Then came Alexander the Great and the Macedonians, followed by the Seleucids. The Romans would later push their borders into Armenian territory. Even Galatian Celts, a Celtic people who settled in Anatolia, briefly touched Armenia's history. But here is the remarkable fact: despite all of these invasions, genetic continuity remained. Armenians absorbed small amounts of outside DNA, but their core ancestry endured. When geneticists analyze Armenian DNA, they find something striking. Armenians form a distinct cluster, separate from their neighbors in the Caucasus and the Middle East. This means that Armenians are not simply a blend of surrounding peoples. Instead, they represent a stable population that has existed in the highlands for thousands of years. Most of their ancestry comes from ancient Near Eastern and Anatolian peoples, those same Bronze Age cultures like the Hayasa, Hurrians, and Urartians. Small layers of DNA reflect historical contexts. Iranian groups such as the Medes and Persians, Hellenistic Greeks, steppe nomads like Scythians, and later empires. But compared to other nations at crossroads, Armenians show extraordinary genetic stability. Ancient DNA taken from Armenian highland burials 3,000 years ago looks remarkably similar to modern Armenian DNA today. How does this long history appear in Armenians' physical traits? Armenians are known for a diverse but recognizable range of phenotypes. Skin tones range from fair to light olive. Hair is most often dark brown or black, though lighter shades, including chestnut and even blonde, appear. Eyes are usually brown, but hazel, green, and gray are not rare. Facial features often include strong cheekbones, prominent noses, and deep-set eyes, traits reflecting both ancient Caucasus and Near Eastern roots. Anthropological studies describe Armenians as tending toward brachycephaly, broad-headedness. Though regional variation exists, Western Armenians historically leaned slightly more Mediterranean, while Eastern Armenians often showed stronger Caucasus traits. What stands out is that despite variation, there's a shared Armenian look, shaped by thousands of years of genetic continuity. Armenian identity wasn't preserved by DNA alone. Culture played an equally powerful role. In 301 CE, Armenia became the first nation in the world to adopt Christianity. This decision created a strong sense of unity and distinctness. A century later, the creation of the Armenian alphabet by Mesrop Mashtats ensured that Armenians could preserve their language, literature, and traditions. Through wars, occupations, and migrations, these cultural anchors reinforced what DNA had already preserved: a continuous people with deep roots. Over the centuries, Armenians lived under the rule of Byzantines, Persians, Arabs, Mongols, Ottomans, and Russians. Each empire left minor genetic traces, especially in border regions, but the mountainous terrain of the Armenian highlands, combined with strong strong community life and religion meant that Armenians resisted assimilation more than most peoples at crossroads. This explains why, despite centuries of empire and migration, modern Armenians remain genetically so close to their ancient ancestors. Today, whether in Yerevan or in diaspora communities across Los Angeles, Moscow, Beirut, and Paris, Armenians share the same genetic signature anchored in the Armenian Highlands. For the Armenian diaspora, DNA becomes even more powerful. Despite being spread across the globe for centuries, Armenians retain the same genetic fingerprint, a reminder that their homeland lives on in their blood. So what does Armenian DNA tell us? It tells the story of an ancient people who never disappeared. It shows continuity from the Hattians and Hurrians to the builders of Urartu, from the Persians and Romans to the present. It explains the unique Armenian phenotype, recognizable, varied, yet tied together by a shared ancestry. And most of all, it shows that Armenians are not simply survivors of history. They are the direct descendants of one of the world's oldest civilizations, still carrying the voices of ancient kingdoms within their DNA. If you found this exploration of Armenian DNA and ancestry interesting, make sure to subscribe to Ethnic Exploration for more deep dives into the genetic history of peoples around the world.